What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Move Better channel. I'm your host, Dr. Joe, and this is the Professor John Penisarada. Today, we're going to talk about rotator cuff and how to strengthen it.
Let's go.
Let's go. All right. So, all right, rotator cuff. You hear a lot about rotator cuff injuries. You hear a lot about, I need to strengthen my rotator cuff. And what do a lot of people do?
They do this.
These little rotational exercises. You know, you see it in physical therapy, you see it in chiropractic, you see it in rehab exercises all the time. And although they do have some, truth to it, and it does help out, we've got to come back to understanding what the rotator cuff muscle does. And, understanding that the muscles, there's 4 muscles in the rotator cuff. The sits muscles. You got your supraspinatus, you got your infraspinatus, you got your teres minor, and then you also have your subscap. And so those muscles together, they join around the capsule and they connect, and they're very much a one muscle group. Even though we have 4 muscles in that area, and they all provide a little bit more activation in certain movements like flexion and extension. Even though the supraspinatus and the infraspinatus and the teres minor helps with flexion and abduction, we also have the subscap that works mainly on extension, shoulder extension. Now, the rotator cuff, the primary function of the rotator cuff is to keep that ball and socket in place.
Intact.
And so it's a group of muscles that really hold that shoulder in place. And that's something that we want to take into consideration, that even though we're doing an external rotation, all 4 muscle groups are firing.
Yep.
So we're going to give you some exercises today that may be able to help with what we call a self-limiting exercise for the rotator cuff. If you want to strengthen the shoulder muscles, the muscles that hold that ball and socket in place, you can do some simple exercises without having to do these dumbbells or grabbing weights where I see people working on these rotational exercises. You can simply prime the muscle by adding weight and just holding a kettlebell, for example. So let's get it going with that. The first one I want to do is grabbing a heavy kettlebell. Now, John, you're going to hold it on to one side. Now, this carry, simply put, is going to allow that rotator cuff muscle to do what he needs to do. A farmer's carry, he can do it both sides. I'm just adding a little bit more because I'm adding him to a single side because right now, that's all that weight we have for that. That's one. Number 2, if we were on both sides, we're going to be working both shoulders, right? He's also working his core at this point. So having him hold a kettlebell off to the side and doing a carry, that's a great exercise. One of the things that a lot of people do for rehab and frozen shoulder is a Codman Circle. So just go ahead and hold yourself down here. Bring your arm out in front of you. So the Codman Circle here, simply put, he's already allowing that shoulder, the rotator cuff muscles, to naturally do what it needs to do and hold that ball and socket in place. And the little stir of the pot that he works with, and it feels great. So the holding, now we're kind of stretching the capsule, but we're integrating the nervous system as he drops his hand down. It's going to be pulling that shoulder blade, that GH joint back into its socket. The rotator cuff muscles are going to be firing. The trap muscles, the mid-traps, the subscap, the serratus, all those muscles are working in unison to keep that ball and socket where it needs to be. So the shoulder is a very complex joint because it is a ball and socket and there's so many things going on with it. But it can simply be as easy as this to create tension within that shoulder and get it working the right way, priming the system for the workout that you have ahead of you. The third exercise is now I'm going to challenge that rotator cuff go ahead and hold it into a 90-degree angle here. Good. Now he's going to walk. Normally I have my patients walk with a 90-degree angle, go ahead and march it in place. And he's trying to just keep that bottom-up kettlebell in place, and that's going to force activation of the rotator cuff muscles because they're going to be kind of freaking out trying to keep that in balance, trying to keep it from shaking. And you'll notice that for a lot of people, this is a pretty tough exercise. For John, not so much. He's got a pretty good rotator cuff muscle that's firing. So, and then the last one to challenge this a little bit more, bring that back up, John. Now you're going to straighten your arm all the way above your head. And as he's keeping this arm straight up into the air, go ahead and march it in place again, John. Good. Now we're challenging the core, and we're challenging the patterns of the system to prepare itself for the workout that you have ahead of you. So try those exercises, everyone. Let's see how that helps prepare you and prime you for your exercises that you have ahead of you, whether it's bench press, shoulder presses, pulling exercises, whatever it is. You need to prime those rotator cuff muscles to get them ready for the workout that you have ahead of you.
Let's do it.
Cool. Thanks, everyone. Like, subscribe, share, comment below. Let us know how we did with these exercises, and hopefully they're able to help you. Thanks, everyone. See you in the next episode.